Hello and welcome to episode 6 of configuring the MM-Tek topology. So let's go ahead and get started. Last time I said I was going to add more of these devices in and I didn't. I started to, and then I ran into an issue with a little bit of RAM allocation, and so I decided just to leave these here. I did go and change the web servers, and we'll talk about that. I left one of them here that wasn't modified, and we'll go ahead and probably look at that today or maybe next time. So I'm going to go ahead and power the topology up here. We do have some errors here on some devices, and these will all power up, and then we'll really be able to figure out which ones are not starting here. Looks like Japan ASA is problematic, Germany INT. And so sometimes what we can do is, after we get these started, we'll go ahead and give another shot at getting it to start here. And this is one of the reasons that I did not add more devices. It seems like I'm getting a lot of devices here. I'm having more errors of this type. And you'll notice here with my CPU that I'm getting close to 100% utilization of the processing power. So today we're going to focus on this area here. Looks like my Windows server didn't start either. Let's give it one more opportunity to try to start. And I'm going to console in to watch that one just a little bit here. Windows 7 looks like it's doing good. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started configuration. So we started here in the center, we moved out toward the ASAs, and the next thing we want to do is our LAN segments. We'll do switches first, and then we'll do the inter VLAN routing on this particular device here, our router on the stick. So we're going to go ahead and console into India switch 1 here. And most of the commands, again, are going to be similar to other devices that we have configured here. So we'll do an enable and a config T, and we'll do hostname India-SW2, I think is the one that we're working on. So there's going to be a couple of different things that we're wanting to do here. One of those things is to create a series of VLANs. And we've got VLAN 10. And we'll just call one of these HR. We'll do VLAN. If I didn't combine these things together here. And then we'll do a VLAN 30. And let's call that name IT. Now that we have our VLANs created and named, so what VLANs do is they are going to break up this physical switch into multiple logical switches. So we have 2 physical switches here, and we're going to split this one up into 3 logical switches. We're going to split this other switch up into 3 logical switches as well, and then we're going to combine the logical switches from this one over into the logical switches of this one via a trunk port. So what we're looking at today is creating VLANs on both of the switches, connecting those together with trunks, and then we'll create a router on the stick here to route between these particular VLANs. Now, one of the things when I set up my initial topology, I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to how I had set up the ports. So I was just merely going along and connecting things together, which has really made it quicker in terms of getting the topology set up quickly. But now I don't know which of these devices are connected to which switch. And that's not a bad thing, because that's kind of a realistic thing, and sometimes you have to go ahead and trace things out. Here it's kind of a little bit easier for us here, so I'm going to go over to the right hand side of GNS3, and we'll find the stuff here with India. And you'll notice that India PC1 is connected via Ethernet 0 to GNS 0/3. I'm sorry, to gigabit 0/3. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do int G0/3, and this is going to be for PC1, and I'm going to do switch port mode access to say that this is going to be an access port, not a trunk port. And we're going to do switch port access. And for PC1, it's in the yellow, and that is in VLAN 10. Next, we're going to look at our next device here, and that's PC2. And PC2 is connected to 0/1, so we're going to do int 0/1 switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 10 as well. And PC3 is connected to G10 switch port access VLAN. I'm sorry, we did do our mode access first. And then switch port access VLAN 20. And then 0/0 switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 20. So basically what we've done now is we put these two in VLAN 10, these two in VLAN 20. Okay, so that's all we need from switch 2. And we're going to do shell run here. And there are a couple of other things that we need to do here. We need to figure out our Windows Server port number, and it's on 1.1. And it's actually in VLAN 30. Okay, I'm going to copy this configuration. We'll paste this in, and then I'll take out some of the things that I know I don't want to actually put back in here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save this configuration, and then let's also save for SW1. And for switch 1, this stuff is all going to be the same, but we are going to have to determine which things are connected to what. So what I'm going to do here, rather than configure this from the command line, is go to India, and I'm going to close these up here. We'll open 5, 6, 7, and 8. And so from G00, PC5, and that's actually in VLAN 10. PC6 is 10. 10. And PC7 is 1, 1. And it is in VLAN 20. And PC8 is in 0, 3. And it is in VLAN 20. So 0, 0. We don't need this one. Don't need this one. This is in VLAN 20. One, 0 is in VLAN 10. 1, 1 is in VLAN 20. And we don't have one. Now I'm going to go over here and look at one of these others here. And copy the section. Let's double check to make sure there wouldn't be anything that we would need to necessarily have. Here it says switch 1 here. And we can go ahead and save this one to Control A for Control All, Control C to copy. And then we're going to go into here and we're going to console in. And we're going to paste this one in. Okay, so that gets our 2 individual switches and the devices connected to them. We do have a couple other things we have to do. So we have to go back here to switch 2, and we're going to have to add a trunk port here. And then here on switch 1, we need to have a trunk port going this way, and then a trunk port going that way. And so that's what we will do next. Okay, so let's go into our G02, I think. Maybe we should actually check for this, for switch 1. So we'll go down to switch 1. And let's move this out just a little bit. So it's the G02 that's connected over. So let's do, make sure that we are doing config T, and then we'll do int G0/2. And so what we'll need to do here, we'll do switch port trunk encapsulation dot 1Q, switch port mode trunk. Each different Cisco switch is going to have slightly different commands, and you can't really remember which one does which, or I can't. And so I just tried. If it doesn't work, there's another 2 or 3 different commands that I know that I can actually enter. So, okay, so now we have trunk port going between the switches from the perspective of switch 1, but we're going to need to do switch port mode trunk. Let's go back over here to switch 2. We'll enable config T. And it's G0/2 on this one as well. Q encapsulation first. The word trunk in there. Switch port mode trunk. So now we should be able to trunk between these 2 switches. So the next thing we need to do is make sure that we have trunking between the switch 1 and the internal router. That's G01. That we need to configure toward the India int router. And one of the things I have not done here very good, that I should, is we'll do a copy run start. Okay, now here we are at the internal router, and so we need to do some basic configurations. So we'll do configure terminal, and we have a couple of interfaces to configure. So we have the int G01. First off, let's do a host name India int for India internal router. And then we'll do int G0/1, and this is our link out toward the ASA. So the IP address here is going to be 192.168.0.probably 2, but let's double check really quickly here. Go back to our mesh topology. And it is 192.168.0.2. 255.255.0. We can do a no shot on that. And then we'll do int G0/2. And now we're going to do sub-interfaces on this one. So this is connected to a trunk port. We have 3 different VLANs that are going to be associated with this particular port. And so we actually have to do sub-interfaces. So we get into the physical interface like we just did, the int G0/2. And then we're going to do int G0/2.10. There is no special significance to the .10 other than we need to have a dot and we need to have something that indicates which VLAN we're connecting to. The portion after the dot to be the same thing as the VLAN. So now we're going to set the encapsulation on this link to be .1Q, and we're going to place it into VLAN 10. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put an IP address that is the default gateway for VLAN 10. Now to do that, to figure out what we're going to do, we're going to go back to our topology here, and VLAN 10 is 192.168.10.network. So we'll do 192.168.10.1. And then we want to do 2.20. And the 2.20 is going to be 192.168.20.1, except we needed to do .1Q first. Darn it. And it needs to be .1Q 20. And now let's do 20.1. And we'll do 2.30. Set the encapsulation to .1Q, VLAN 30. And then the IP address of this one is going to be 30.1. Now, after we have all of our sub interfaces configured, now we want to do a int G0/2, which is the physical interface, and we're going to do a no shut on this. And that should bring the physical interface and then the sub interfaces up. Let's do an IP route. We do need to figure out what the IP address is of our ASA here, so let's see if we can figure out what that is. 192.168.0.1. Let's do a copy run start on this to save this. Okay, so let's go to PC5 and we'll do console here. IP and a question mark here. And so it's IP 192.168.10.5/24, and then 192.168.10.1. Now we can ping 10.1. Okay, so to get these routes to actually work, there's a couple of things I've done. On the internal router for India, I have put in a default route that points out to 0.1, which is the ASA interface here. So IP route quad 0, 192.168.0.1. And on the India ASA, so that gets everything to go out, but then once it's at the ASA and coming back in, we need to route inside for each of these networks that are not directly connected over here. We'll basically route them out to 192.168.0.2, and then this router will know how to get them on their final destination. So now if we go to PC5 that we had configured over there, and we ping out, to a VASA here, we can actually get a response back. One of the other things that we want to do here is talk about port security on these switches. And what we want to do is choose one of these interfaces here, and we'll put port security on it, and then you can go ahead and do that for the other interfaces. And really quickly here, I'm going to do show run to see which interfaces actually have stuff plugged into them, so that we can actually do this on one that's appropriate to do it on. We obviously don't want to do this on one of our truck ports or something. Let's find something that has so let's do int g0/1. So what we want to do now is we'll do switch port, port-security, and there's a number of different things we could do. We could do like a maximum of 1. So if we want to be sure that someone doesn't add a little switch under their desk and then plug in their laptop, we could say switch port security maximum 1, and that works. If we wanted to go ahead, we could do switch port security MAC address, and I'm not going to actually use this one because I don't really want to figure out what the MAC address is of the device that's connected here. But the easier thing to do here is do switch port security MAC address sticky. And maybe I do need to have a dash in here. Okay, so switch port security MAC address sticky. That means that the first device that we plug in is going to be the one that the MAC address will be saved from. And then if somebody unplugs a PC and plugs something different in, it's not going to let it connect. So we're actually going to tell it. So right now it's going to be a violation, but we need to tell it what happens if there is a violation. So we'll do switch port security violation shutdown. And then what's going to happen is if somebody unplugs their computer and plugs something else in, it's going to shut down the port, and you have to go in and no shut the port. And so I'm not going to really demonstrate that. You can go ahead and play with that with deleting the cable and putting the cable for a different device in, etc. I will go ahead and do a copy run start here. Just so I save that piece of the configuration. I'm not sure how I will build that out for the entire network, but I just wanted to show that to you as one of the other security aspects of switch configuration. We'll call this a wrap on this episode.